I'm Sophie, and I can't wait for you to see my film Jimpa.
Hi, Sophie.
Huh?
So nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining Five Questions with Kino Lorber. We are very excited to talk about your film Jimpa. I loved it. Olivia Colman, John Lithgow, Aud, all amazing cast, amazing story. My first question is, Jimpa explores, LGBTQ plus identity across three generations and how self-identifying has sort of changed across those generations and the tensions that might arise from that. So, was this something you experienced in your own personal life? And how do you hope your film addresses this sort of intergenerational disconnect?
Yeah, thank you so much. I grew up in a queer family. My dad was gay, and he was very out loud and open about that, and quite an eccentric man, and very political. Maybe not by choice, but he still was. And so I grew up in a family where we were having conversations about identity and who we are all the time. My own child, Aud, who's in the film,
Mhm.
is also a queer person, and so we have those conversations continuing through um, from when I was a child right through to being a parent. Um, but I really realized like we're not always in conversation across those generations. It sometimes feels like queerness sort of sits or LGBT culture exists in kind of pockets
Mhm.
at the moment, particularly nowadays. And so I was really interested in that being something that we started to address. What does this feel like to talk about who we are amongst ourselves? So it sort of was a bit of the impulse behind it. I mean, it was even more personal actually, is that my dad died a few years ago, and when he died, Aud had just started to come into their own kind of queer identity, and they were speaking about it publicly and saying, "I'm a trans person and I'm non-binary." And I really longed to put them together in a room to talk about that. I really wished that my dad could tell Aud about the things that he had been through and the hardship of that, but also the beautiful stuff that he had learned and had kind of gained from being part of the communities that he was in. And that kind of longing was the impulse to make the movie.
That was actually one of my questions I wanted to ask, was about that impetus for the story, the fact that they never really had those conversations, about their respective experiences. So, is this the film how you would imagine those conversations would have gone and how their relationship would have been? How do you think your dad would react to it?
I was thinking about this the other day because my dad did know certain things about Aud before he died. I think he knew that Aud was queer. He knew that Aud was what we would call trans non-binary now, but I don't know that we had the exact language for that at the time. Um, I think he just was incredibly proud of Aud and who they are and who they were even at that stage. So that conversation just would have been bigger and more expansive, probably than I can even imagine. The thing is, when you start to fictionalize these things, you also go, okay, what else do we want to look at?
Mm.
If this character is a provocative character, how will they be provocative with this young person who kind of idolizes them?
Mhm.
And so, therefore, these really, I mean, Jim is a character that says things like, there's no such thing as bisexuality.
Mm.
And he will kind of defend that in that argument because he likes to argue. But probably if he went somewhere else in another room, he would defend that there is bisexuality.
Right.
He's kind of an
Yeah.
interesting character, not easy to be around all the time.
Right.
So I guess, was I imagining it not in a totally idealistic way, but in part, yeah, imagining, and then what happens when you fictionalize things is the story takes over and the narrative drive kind of takes it.
John Lithgow is amazing as Jimpa and Olivia Colman as well. How did they get involved in this project? And was their casting did it have an impact on you writing the characters and the story?
Hmm. Olivia, when she came on, she read the script and we had put it aside for some time before she had it. We weren't sure it was ever going to be made. And she read it and we had zoomed instantly and she signed on, and we had this little window that she could do to come to Australia and then Amsterdam. And then we just had to like finance and make the film. It was kind of like get on the train and go, you
Yeah.
know? And Olivia is that kind of person. She has that we can finance on her basically. And so she got involved in that way, and I think She has a great connection to the kind of feeling of being a parent and feeling of being a child to a parent, and those things we really met on. And it was she's an incredibly warm, very emotional kind of actor, and so it was heavenly really to me to work with her. John came on a bit later. I think we'd already been shooting and um no, we hadn't been shooting. John came on a bit later. Uh After we'd shot in Australia is when we met him. But um again, I sent him a letter. We had a great Zoom conversation. He was really forthright and really frank and really wanted to kind of embrace the role. He's such a character actor that he just like first thing is he's on the phone with me, on the Zoom with me, and he's saying, "Okay, I really get this bit where Jim is just naked posing for the for a portrait." He's like, he has to do that. That's just so telling of his character and how open and free he is and unashamed, do you know?
Yeah.
And it was like that was such a great start for us.
Amazing. I mean, he gets naked twice in the film, right?
He does, and he's got tattoos, and he's
Yeah.
weird Australian accent, all sorts of things.
I mean, it's amazing how open, he was in this role. My questions are all out of order now, but I'd love to know, like the intimacy and the authenticity of the familial dynamics and relationships between the cast is so, it just really shines through. How did you build that trust and camaraderie, among them?
I mean, my favorite part of making films is probably the bit where I'm in the room with the actors, and rehearsals are a really special time for me. We get very little in film now, sort of a week usually before we shoot. I had 2 weeks because we had two different shoots, but it's a time where I am like, shut the door, let's work out how to connect with each other, meet each other in a different way, kind of deep dive into intimacy. And so I have a whole series of things that I do. They're not really a set thing. They kind of guided instinctually, I suppose, where I'm asking them to meet each other as humans and to work with me, and we kind of build a shared history and a shared language. And the idea is that we can walk on set together as a team, rather than just kind of turning up and being like, okay, what are we doing? Or being driven by the kind of filmmaking industrial model or the circus of film.
Mhm.
So by the time we're on set, we know each other very well. And so those exercises range from all sorts of things like hanging out, talking about our lives, to like very specific tasks where they take each other out and do things, movement stuff. It's a big range of things. John and Olivia, I remember the day that we brought them together. They had met because they'd been in The Crown together. They did one scene before. But the first thing they did together, I left them alone in the room and they had to like massage each other's hands with this cream and talk about their fathers and their children. And so they had a series of questions, but I wasn't in the room for it. Sometimes I'm there and sometimes I leave people. And for them, I just needed them to have a kind of connection. I walk back in, they're all crying. We're like, okay, we're done. Yeah, no, we did lots of work, but it is something that I really cherish. And on this film, such a big cast that we really needed to do that a lot.
It's almost like going back to acting school, acting class, and those exercises that really get you closer and tear your walls down and your guard down with each other.
Yeah.
Did you do the observational exercise that's in the film? Just kinda like,
And
yeah.
that is definitely an exercise I use, but I don't have a set kind of system. Some people work in a way that's very kind of much a kind of process that's taken from somewhere. Mine are like, yes, I'll do the hand exercise if it's relevant or with someone's face and that's really just a sort of exercise in paying attention to each other and being allowed to look at each other. On this film, I did this great thing, we could do it now, where every time someone met, they had to draw the other person as a portrait, but they weren't allowed to look at the paper. They had to stay looking at them.
Oh, I've done that.
And you can't take your pen off the page. So we have all these amazing portraits of them. But what's beautiful is like you also are allowed to look at someone and they're doing something as well. So they're not thinking about you looking at them.
Mhm.
So it's actually, it was a great thing to do.
Yeah, you really start to notice things that you wouldn't normally notice, and
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. It's so much better than Meisner. Just
Yeah,
the, like,
yeah.
repetition.
I just never can like stick into those things. I think that it's great to have a toolbox and sort of draw on it for what we need. and see what works. Yeah.
Now we have to talk about Aud,
Yeah.
because Aud is such a standout in this cast alongside 2 veteran legendary actors. Like, how much was that was that your direction, and how did you balance, your vision and their natural instincts as an actor? And what was it like directing your own child?
Mm. It's beautiful for me to work with Aud, and I think we've always since they were very tiny, we've always been together in the kind of exploration of what we're doing, you know? So Aud would be in the room when I'm thinking about work or when I'm writing or editing or on set, and we would talk a lot about ideas that have formed a lot of Aud's kind of creative life as well. So that felt really normal, and Aud was part of the writing of this. And then to take it on to, like, the actual performance part, because that's a very different relationship to have. It was like, "Oh, is this gonna be okay?" But Aud's a really, excellent public speaker and poet, and so it and had done some film work already, and so it felt kind of like a very natural thing for us to do, and I knew that we would be able to kind of hold each other through that process. It's quite different from anything else. There were certainly times where I had to be like, "How do I navigate this so that I'm a director and they're not taking on too much of my shit?" Or, that was the thing to do, which is not always easy when you're that close to someone. But honestly, like, Aud understood the character, although they're quite different now from that character,
Mm.
and they just sort of were there being in the scenes with the people, and so I think it's really beautiful. I mean, what a thing to do to act opposite these great, great actors, you
Mhm.
know? And I feel like it just allowed Aud to kind of just stay there as an authentic person. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. The performance was just so natural and so, yeah, great. Very, very great. That was all of our questions. So thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Yeah, congratulations on Jimpa, and all the recognition it's getting.